close your eyes. Remember this sound. It is the sound of a portal to another world. You are 14 years old. It's the 90s or the early 2000s. Homework isn't done, your backpack is thrown in the corner, and it's getting dark outside. But none of that matters. The only thing that matters is what is about to happen on this convex, electrified screen. You are waiting. You're willing to endure endless commercials for gum and pads. You're willing to listen to the chatter of VJs whose names you won't even remember. You are waiting for him, the music video. This was a time when you couldn't just Google music. You couldn't pause it. You had to hunt for it. It was a chase. And when finally the opening chords of Linkin Park, Eminem, or Britney Spears began, it was pure adrenaline. 3 letters in the corner of the screen. MTV. It wasn't just a TV channel. It was our cultural code. It was our big brother who was cooler than us, dressed better than us, and knew everything. If you weren't on MTV, you didn't exist. They dictated what we listened to, what we wore, what we laughed at, and what we rebelled against. It was an empire built on the pure energy of youth. But today, the screen has gone dark. The logo remains, but the magic is gone. Where is the music? Where is the rebellion? Why has the empire that created modern pop culture turned into a factory for cheap reality shows about pregnant teenagers? How did they lose everything? To understand this, we need to rewind the tape to the very beginning, to the day they declared war on boredom. Television is deadly boring. 3 major channels, news, soap operas, and shows for housewives. Music on TV? Forget about it. Artists appear there once a year, standing at attention and lip-syncing. And then they appear. A bunch of lunatics led by John Locke. Their ideas sounded like madness. A channel that plays nothing but music 24 hours a day. Investors laughed in their faces. People listen to music with their ears, you idiots, not their eyes. No one is going to watch this. But they didn't care. August 1st, 1981, at exactly 12:01 a.m., they flipped the switch. Do you know what they showed first? Not a studio, not a concert. They showed the launch of a damn rocket to the moon. It was audacity of cosmic proportions. They took the proudest moment in American history, Apollo 11, and slapped their logo on it. They declared, "We are the moon landing for pop culture." The astronaut with the MTV flag became their icon. And then the first song played, and it was the most cynical choice in history. The Buddles, "Video Killed the Radio Star." It wasn't just a song, it was a threat. It seemed like a triumph, but reality punched him in the gut. That night, the channel was seen by only a couple thousand people in New Jersey. Cable operators, conservative men in expensive suits hated MTV. They called it garbage and refused to include the channel in their networks. A year later, MTV was on the verge of bankruptcy. They needed a miracle, and that's when they went all in. They launched the "I Want My MTV" campaign. Your idols, Mick Jagger, Sting, Bowie, looked from the screen right at you and said, "Pick up the phone, call your cable operator and demand, 'I want my MTV.'" And it worked like a nuclear explosion. The phone lines of cable companies melted down. Millions of teenagers demanded their music. The operators had no choice. They surrendered. That is how MTV didn't just enter our homes, it kicked the door down. But behind this bright facade lay an ugly secret. In the early years, MTV was sterile white. The channel's management held a strict policy: we play only rock and roll. And rock, in their opinion, was music for white guys with long hair. They ignored funk, soul, and the rising force of hip-hop. It reached the point of absurdity. Black artists were not allowed on air. Rick James, a superstar of that time, publicly called MTV racists, but the channel remained silent. Until David Bowie walked into the studio. Live on air, smiling, he backed the host into a corner. He asked, "Why do you play so few black artists? I see their videos, they're brilliant, but they're not in your rotation." The host mumbled something about how audiences in the regions wouldn't understand us. It was a disgrace. But Bowie didn't break that wall. The king did. Michael Jackson releases the album Thriller. He has the Billie Jean video in his hands. It was a masterpiece of filmmaking, but MTV refuses to take it. And then the president of CBS Records issues an ultimatum. Either you play this video, or I pull all my artists from your channel and publicly tell the press who you really are. Gritting their teeth, MTV plays Billie Jean. The effect was instantaneous. Ratings skyrocketed. Michael Jackson became the face of the channel. He proved that music has no color. Thanks to this scandal, MTV transformed from a channel for rockers into a global phenomenon. By the early 90s, MTV had become a monster. They no longer followed trends, they created them. Remember Kurt Cobain? Grunge was basement music from Seattle until the Smells Like Teen Spirit video hit the rotation. MTV made Nirvana the biggest band in the planet in 1 week. They dressed an entire generation in flannel shirts and ripped jeans. The channel's influence was so massive that even politics had to bend the knee. In 1992, Bill Clinton, a presidential candidate, realized to win he needed the youth vote. Where did he go? CNN? No, he went to MTV. When asked from the audience, boxers or briefs, the future president of America, without blinking, answered, usually briefs. At that moment, the old world of politics died. MTV officially became the fourth branch of government. And then they appeared. 2 morons sitting on a couch criticizing video clips, Beavis and Butthead. It was a spit in the face of good taste. Parents were horrified, teachers sounded the alarm, but teenagers? Teenagers adored them because MTV spoke their language. It seemed this party would last forever, but right at this moment, at the peak of its power, MTV accidentally created a virus that would eventually kill it. In 1992, producers had an idea. What if we don't need writers? What if we just put 7 strangers in one house, set up cameras, and see what happens? The show was called The Real World. It was an experiment, but the result shocked everyone. People watched the fights, intrigues, and drinking of ordinary people with the same interest as they watched Madonna videos. For the channel's management, this was a revelation, and a very dangerous one. You see, shooting music videos is expensive. Paying rights for music is expensive, but shooting a bunch of teenagers screaming at each other, that costs pennies. Slowly but surely, music began to fade into the background. Jackass, Pimp My Ride, Cribs appeared in the schedule. These were cool shows, we loved them, but the letter M in the name of the channel began to fade. The golden age of MTV ended in the late 90s with TRL, Total Request Live. Times Square, crowds of fans blocking the streets of New York, Carson Daly in the studio, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Eminem. It was the peak, the Olympus of pop culture. They seemed invincible, but in California garage, 2 guys were already writing the code that would destroy this empire. First came Napster. Sean Fanning showed the world that music could be obtained for free and right now. Why wait an hour for a video on TV if you can download it in 5 minutes? MTV got tense, but not too much. We have the brand, we have exclusives, they thought. And then, in 2005, a portal to hell opened for television: YouTube. Suddenly, it turned out that any school kid with a camera could gather more views than a show with $1 million budget. The viewer gained freedom. We no longer wanted the man on the TV to decide what we watched. We wanted to choose for ourselves. And here the owners of MTV made a fatal mistake. Instead of buying YouTube or making friends with the internet, they sued it. They demanded all their content be removed from YouTube. They tried to ban the future. Instead of leading the digital revolution, MTV built a fence around themselves, and they remained behind that fence completely alone. The audience simply left for the internet and never came back. Left without viewers, MTV panicked. Ratings were falling. They needed something to hold attention at any cost, and they decided to sell their soul. Jersey Shore and 16 and Pregnant hit the screens. Trash, scandals, cheap drama. It brought ratings, yes, but it killed the brand. People who grew up on Nirvana and Prodigy watched this with disgust. The channel that taught us to be cool turned into garbage for the brain. In 2010, a symbolic event occurred. Quietly, without press conferences, MTV changed its logo. They officially removed the words music television from under it. The music was gone for good. The M meant nothing anymore. It was an official admission of defeat. Today, MTV still exists. You can find it on cable. But if you turn it on now, you will likely see a marathon of ridiculousness playing for 100 hours a week. There is no music there. Music now lives in your smartphone, on Spotify, on TikTok, right here on YouTube. We haven't lost anything in terms of technology. It became more convenient. But we lost something else. We lost the sense of community. That feeling when millions of people are watching the same premiere at the same time. We lost the magic of anticipation. We lost that big brother who took us by the hand and led us into the world of music. MTV didn't die of bankruptcy. It died because it stopped being necessary. It fulfilled its mission, and the internet swallowed it. But sometimes, clicking the remote, I still hope to stumble upon that static, to see the astronaut on the moon, and to hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll."